joining us for today's webinar. My name is Samantha Watson. I'm the Executive Director of the SAM Fund. And with me is Michelle Zietler, our Program Director. Before we get started, and I welcome Britt, I just want to take over a couple quick housekeeping things. The first is that you'll see on the right side of your screen there's a place where you can enter questions or comments. We're going to be fielding questions throughout the presentation. If it's just a matter of clarifying something, we may be able to do that immediately. Otherwise, we will share the questions with Britt at the end of her slides. So just keep them coming as they come into your head. We're happy to try and help throughout the presentation. If afterwards you have questions that you didn't think of during the presentation, or if we don't have a chance to get to your questions, you can email us. Our contact info will be on the last slide, and we'll be in touch afterwards. The other thing is that at the end of the webinar, you will see a link to a follow-up survey. Please, oh please take a minute or two to fill it out. We really do take your feedback seriously as we develop our webinar series. We want these presentations to be as helpful to you as they can be. So please take a couple minutes and let us know what you thought. Let us know if you have any ideas for future topics and so forth. So to kick things off, I just wanted to welcome Britt.Barney, our Client Services Manager from LearnVest, for today's webinar. Today's webinar, I'm going to talk about the topic in just a second, but it's part of a series hosted by the SAM Fund called Moving Forward with Your Financial Health. Because over the years, as you probably know about the SAM Fund, we've been providing direct financial assistance to young adults post-treatment, but we've found that sometimes when we're not able to provide assistance, or if that's not the type of assistance that's needed, sometimes it's just a matter of having access to information and having the right guidance to help you overcome the challenges that you face financially because of cancer. So we developed this webinar series in an attempt to provide a different type of support and to give you the tools and the resources that you need to be able to move forward towards your goals. So with that in mind, we are thrilled, beyond thrilled, to be welcoming Britt for today's presentation called When and How Do I Save? Developing a Plan that Works for You. You know, a lot of times we hear from people who really are in dire straits while they're in treatment or immediately post-treatment and are having trouble paying the bills on a daily basis. And that's one set of issues certainly that cancer poses for young adults. But then once you've had a little bit of an opportunity to get back on your feet, maybe you're back at work, maybe you're finally able to pay your bills and able to start thinking about the future, you're probably not really sure where to start with that, and that's a whole other set of challenges. So we're really thrilled to invite Britt and LearnVest to work with us on today's webinar and help you think through some of those things. Britt is a financial planner. She doesn't believe that managing your finances should have to be scary, stressful, or even complicated. So she works with LearnVest clients to make taking action on your money as easy as streaming music or ordering from Amazon. So she's going to help you map out a more secure, worry-free money future by walking you through the LearnVest program. And topics will cover everything from budgeting and emergency savings to student loans and retirement to insurance and investing. So she's really going to give sort of a broad strokes presentation about the things that you should be thinking about and steps that you can be taking to set yourself up for financial stability in the future. So with that in mind, I will turn the presentation over to Britt. And Britt, thank you so much for doing this today. We're so thrilled to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm just going to get my screen share going over here so that you can see it all. Okay, you guys can all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I am a planner here at LearnVest. I am a client service manager here at LearnVest as well, so I work with an entire team of planners, and every day, you know, I get to spend my days kind of talking to people about their finances, helping people achieve their dreams through their finances, and really taking some of the fear and complication and confusion around finances, taking that away. So that's why I get up and come to work every day. So a little bit of background on LearnVest, just for those of you who aren't familiar. Our founder, Alexa Von Tobel, she started LearnVest because she realized that, you know, even though she was really well educated, she went to Harvard Business School, she worked on Wall Street, even though she had that kind of crazy educational and finance background, she still didn't really know anything about handling her personal finances, and none of her friends did either. So long story, you know, very short, she dropped out of Harvard Business School, she raised a bunch of venture capital funding, and here we are. LearnVest has been really helping people ever since. I know that financial planning is not considered to be like a real hip or a sexy topic, but it's really, really important. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be scary. I hope that it comes across in my voice how much of a big personal finance nerd I am. I get very excited about these kinds of things, so I'm excited to talk to you guys and answer your questions and really just give you kind of an overview of all of the different things that make up part of your financial picture. So I'm going to talk a little bit about LearnVest, how we can help you, live your richest life and really get the most out of your finances. And I also want to give you guys some actionable things that you can start doing now to really start taking control of your finances. So first off, what is LearnVest? Simply put, LearnVest is a program for your money. Our mission is really to help people feel amazing about their money, which I know seems lofty to say, like, oh, I feel amazing when I look at my checking or savings account. It is possible. And we really want to make financial planning affordable, accessible, and delightful. When a lot of people think of financial planning, I think something that they think of is, people with millions of dollars in the bank, people with tons of assets. At LearnVest, we really believe that financial planning is something that everyone should have access to, no matter their income level, no matter where they stand. So I'd like to share a couple of quick statistics with you guys. 76% of people feel out of control when it comes to their money. I think that this statistic really speaks volumes. Know that if this is you, you are not alone. The majority of people are feeling a bit out of control when they think about their finances. And I don't think this is surprising because every day we make 6 to 10 financial decisions, from like, where do I order lunch, should I take a cab, am I going to happy hour, to bigger things. What do I do with my 401k? How much should I have in my savings account? Most of these decisions, they're made unguided. They're made without any financial education, and so it's not really any surprise that people are feeling overwhelmed about these things. And not only do people feel out of control, but again, 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. This is one of those statistics that it's kind of a thing. You're like, oh well, it's only people who make less than X, or people who make more than Y. This can't be them. But this is really one of those things that 30% of the 76%, almost a third of them, are people that make more than $100,000 a year. Which I think at first can seem kind of unbelievable, but we get that, right? Because as you start earning more money, you start upgrading your life. You start kind of having a little bit of lifestyle inflation. So I've had clients who make $45,000 a year, have no debt, they own their home outright. I have other clients who make $200,000 a year, have $25,000 in credit card debt, they own nothing. So earning more money doesn't necessarily make you more financially stable. It's what you do with the money you have that really matters. So let me introduce you to the LearnVest Action Program. The program is really, very simply put, it's a program for your money. We designed it with financial and behavior change experts to kind of figure out not just what are your goals, but how do you achieve them, and what are the things that you can do to really achieve what you want and to make that realistic. So what I'm going to do as we go through our presentation today is I'm going to give you a preview of each of the steps in the LearnVest Action Program. And what I want you to do as we're talking, or as I'm talking, I guess, start to build your plan, a financial plan, mentally as we go through each step. So before we kind of go over each one, take a minute to think about, what does financial progress look like to you? What is important to you? So for me personally, my biggest thing is not having to worry about money. If my husband's company went under, if there was a medical emergency, I think the one thing that we wouldn't be worrying about was how we were going to pay our rent, and I would be able to focus all of my energy on the things that are really important instead of worrying about the smaller things. So that is why I budget. That is why I have a plan, so that when something happens, I can focus on that important thing and not worry about kind of all of the other dollars and cents and where they're going. So let's jump right in and take a look at step one. So step one is, I think, one of the very most important steps. This is getting organized. This has been extremely helpful for so many of my clients. So that, find a way to track your spending. What's coming in, what's going out. I'm obviously a little bit biased. I like the LearnVest, excuse me, the Money Center in LearnVest.com. basically, you link all your bank accounts, checking, saving, credit card, student loans, any other type of like outstanding debts, income streams. You link all of that into here. And what you do is you have everything all in one place. It gives you a really nice kind of bird's eye view of your finances. So you don't have to log into your bank for checking and savings, then log into your credit card company, then log into your student loan, then log into your car loan. It's all in one place, and you can see it all. So getting organized and just understanding where the money is and where it's going, that's really kind of the first best step. So I have a few of my very favorite tips to share with you guys just about getting organized. These are little things that you can do now that, excuse me, don't take up a ton of time, but can really be super beneficial. So the first one is to set up automatic calendar alerts for your bill payments. So, and not even just bill payments, but for other things in your financial life. So we're all busy. We have all got a lot going on. It's nice to have some help remembering what you need to do. I have a calendar for my social life. I know that I have a birthday party, a wedding, this, that, and the other thing booked on my calendar. Why not have a calendar for my financial life? And this is where my nerdiness starts to show a little bit. So I have a recurring calendar alert set for my bills. So I get an alert of like, hey, little reminder, this bill needs to be paid. So I have renter's insurance for my apartment, which is only once a year. And so what I do is I set an alert, and it's due every January. I just paid it a couple of weeks ago. It's like, hey, don't forget, renter's insurance is due in 2 weeks. And then I can have another reminder, hey, don't forget, renter's insurance is due in 3 days. I go online, I pay it, no big deal. I also have an alert to check my, my credit score every few months, every quarter or so. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Credit Karma. That's Karma with a K, credit with a C. CreditKarma.com. It's this awesome website that lets you monitor your credit score for free. So I set an alert, every 3 months or so to go in, and it's not only is it free, but it doesn't have a negative impact on your credit score. So there are some things where if you apply for a credit card or another line of credit, sometimes that can have a ding on your credit score. But with Credit Karma, it's completely free, and I believe right now what they do is provide 2 of the 3 credit bureaus those credit scores. And they also have a really cool credit simulator. So if you're like, oh, I want to open a line of credit, or I want to see what paying off this loan, what impact that would have on my credit, it lets you go in and say, if I do A, B, or C, what will happen to my credit score? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? How long will it take to recover? All of those types of things. So I'm a big fan of that. And then the other thing that I do every January, I check my credit report. So I'm checking my credit score pretty regularly, and I can see kind of if new accounts have been opened or anything like that. But checking your credit report, you'd be really surprised at the things that are on there. So whether it's like an unpaid utility bill, or your report is great and it's a bunch of on-time payments. I had logged in 2 Januaries ago, and there was an unpaid medical bill on my credit report, and I could not for the life of me figure it out, and it turns out it wasn't my bill. And so I had been, delinquent on a bill that wasn't even mine. I called the doctor's office, they called the credit bureaus or the collections agency, and they withdrew, and it ended up working out, but you don't know what you don't know. So if you're not looking, it's easy to kind of miss those things and have them slip by. The other thing is something that our founder, Alexa, came up with that I really, really like. And it's basically just to create a separate email account that's just for your bills. So my personal inbox is super cluttered with like social media notifications, reminders about what's on sale at certain places, emails from my mom. And then my work inbox is a whole nother story. That gets crazy too. So this separate email account just ensures that something doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Log in once a month, twice a month, pay all the bills, pay it online, move on, don't worry about missing something. And then the last one is just to use a tool to help you. So like I said, I'm obviously biased, right? I like the LearnVest tool, that's what I use. But find something free, find something secure that works for you, and just use that. This is really going to help you become aware of what's going on with your finances. And I really like using an app on my phone, because it's easy to stay organized on the go. So I don't have to necessarily sit down at my computer every night to go over my finances. I can do it whenever I have the time. And something that I like to do every day, and I encourage our clients to do every day, is to take a daily money minute. So this is basically just a few minutes during the day to log in and kind of see what's going on financially. Does everything look right? And so something that I do every day is to build a small habit you want to attach it to another small habit. So the LearnVest offices here in New York, you may have heard the ambulance that just went by and all of the honking that's going on outside, very pleasant. The LearnVest elevator is the slowest elevator in the world. I think I waited 6 or 7 minutes for it today. So what I do is, while I'm waiting for the elevator, I log into my LearnVest account. I do my daily money minute. But what I actually do is I check Instagram first. I don't know if you guys are as kind of into Instagram as I am, but my sister has a dog. I don't have any human nieces or nephews, but I have a dog nephew, and she posts all her pictures of him on Instagram. So I know that I'm going to check Instagram in the morning. So what I do is I put my LearnVest app next to my Instagram app. So I've built a habit. I know that I'm checking Instagram. As soon as I close out of Instagram, I see LearnVest right next to it. So that's how you build small habits, is to just tack them on to something else. I have a client who makes oatmeal every single morning, and as she's waiting for the water to boil so she can pour it into her oatmeal, she checks her LearnVest account. So really just kind of making sure that you're on top of those things. You're not missing any bills that come through. You're not seeing charges that you could have maybe disputed or that didn't look right. I went out the other night. I was walking home from work. It was late. I wanted to stop and get some takeout. So I stopped. I got a sandwich. It was like $6 or something. And I think I gave maybe $1 or $2 tip. And what happened was the next morning I logged into my LearnVest account and the total was $10. And I was like, that seems a little high. I still had the receipt in my pocket. So I walked by this restaurant every night on my way home from work. And I walked in and I said, hey guys, here's what cleared my bank account. Here's what the receipt says. And they're like, oh, you're right. They gave me $2. It was no big deal. Had I waited until the end of the month to like go over my statement, or if I even would have bothered to look, I would have lost out on that. It's not a lot of money, right? It's $2 or $3. But if it's $2 or $3 a couple times a week, or even a couple times a month, who knows what that could add up to at the end of the year. So I just like to say, hey, be on top of it, know what's going on, and then you can kind of see if there are some holes in the bucket that kind of need to be patched. So let's talk a little bit about credit scores. So credit scores are confusing. I think they're confusing on purpose. I think that for something that is so important to your life, that dictates how much you pay for your home, how much you pay for your car, how much credit you have access to, the credit bureaus make it very hard to kind of understand what is even going into this number. So I can't go like super deep into every single bit of the algorithm because I honestly don't know exactly how the algorithm works, but these guidelines are pretty good. So the thing you can say that has the biggest impact is your payment history, missing payments, late payments, all of those types of things. So if you want to build good credit, the best thing you can do is pay on time. The other thing you can do is have a variety of different kinds of credit. So if you have one credit card and then maybe you have a car loan or a student loan, or you have a utility, a cable bill, an electric bill in your name. Those things are also reported on your credit card, or your credit report rather. The other thing to be aware of is your credit utilization rate. So if you have a credit card that has a $1,000 limit, you want to make sure that you're not putting more than $300 or so on it at any given time. Because what happens is the credit bureau will look at that and they'll say, oh, you have a $1,000 limit, you have $999 on your card, can you actually pay that off? What does that look like? So try not to utilize your entire credit card balance, basically. And then the other thing is to not close your oldest card if you have one. So let's say, you have a card, you've had it for 3 or 4 years, you maybe get a new credit card, you think, oh, well, I don't need 2, I'll close the old one. What you want to do is keep your oldest card open longest. So those are kind of like the top 3 things to do. But some of you might be saying like, Britt, I don't even have any credit. So where am I supposed to start? So like I said before, the best places to start are to get a utility bill in your name, a cell phone, cable, internet, electric, gas, something like that, because that will go on your credit report. The other thing that you can do is get a secured credit card. And what a secured credit card is it's when you say to the bank, and make sure you get it from kind of a reputable place. I know Bank of America has them, Chase, all of the big banks have them, credit unions. You say, hey guys, I know I don't have credit, but I want to prove to you that I am a trustworthy borrower. So you could say, hey, here's $300 in cash or a check or whatever. You give that to the bank. They give you a credit card with a $300 limit. And what happens is over time, either they'll say, hey, we want to give you a $500 limit, we'll still hold that $300, but now your limit is $500. And eventually what will happen is they say, hey, you've been a really good customer for a year or 2 years, whatever it is. You have proven to us that you can pay this credit card bill. We are now going to return that $300 to you, and now it's a regular credit card. You spend up and you pay it down. So that's one way to really build good credit. And the other thing to do is if you already have a credit card, charge something small on it, maybe your gas for the week or you know, a dinner out or something like that, and then pay it off in full. So that way you're showing, hey, I charged this month, I got my statement, I paid it off in full immediately, you're not paying any interest, those types of things. So those are some of the ways to really build up your credit score. So the next step in the whole financial planning process is to focus. So this is really getting that paperwork in order. You know, you did that in the first step. You know where your money is. You did that in the first step. And now we want to know, okay, what's coming in? What's going out? Where is all of the money going? And this is budgeting. I think that some people think of budgeting kind of as like a dirty 4-letter word, but I really love budgeting. I think it means freedom. And I think that budgeting can be very liberating. It doesn't necessarily have to be painful, you know, and this is what I get to spend a lot of my time doing, is to talk with my clients and talk them through a budget. So this gives you it gives you some structure, right? So you know, hey, what is my life costing me? What are my bills? What are my priorities? When I spend money, I don't have to wonder if I can afford it. I know that because I have a budget. So what we like to say is divide your finances up into a few categories. And there's a really great article. I can have it sent out to you guys. It's called the One Number Strategy, and it's kind of a budgeting philosophy that makes it very easy to understand what's going where. The One Number Strategy, if you even look for it on our site, it's there. But basically you say, all right, what are my bills? What are my fixed costs? What is that running me? Great. Take that out of the equation. I know I have to pay it anyway. What do I want to put towards my priorities? What do I want to put towards paying down my debts, savings? How do I want to organize that, right? Then you say, okay, well, now what's left over? That is what you can spend on whatever you want. That is what you can feel free to spend on going out to dinner or grabbing you know, drinks with friends or going shopping or whatever it is. So you know that what your lifestyle costs you is what you can afford. And it also helps, I think, when you focus and when you really start tracking your expenses, what are the trends? What are the things that you hadn't thought of that are popping up and throwing you off budget? Can we plan for those? So there's things like irregular expenses, right? So I talked about this a few minutes ago, that I have my renter's insurance policy. Well, I pay it only once a year. But if I waited until the bill came in to start, you know, getting the money together for that, my budget for the week would be completely blown out of the water. So what I do is I take a little bit of money and every month I put it into a non-monthly savings account. So what happens is every month, let's say I put in, you know, 15, or let's make it easy, $10 a month, and my renter's insurance premium is $120 a year. At the end of that year, I have that $120 saved up. The other thing that I have been personally saving a lot for is weddings, right? So all of my friends decided to get married last year. I think I only have like 2 or 3 weddings this year, which feels really good. But a lot of my friends decided to get married last year. So what I did was, in the beginning of the year, I figured out, like, okay, what are some of the weddings that I'm going to be invited to, and where are they going to be? Do I need to stay at a hotel? Can I stay, you know, with my sister? Do I have to go to a shower? What are the gifts? What is it going to cost me? So I said, okay, it's going to cost me a couple $1,000s, let's say. What do I need to put away every month so that when these weddings come up, I can afford to go to them? Or is this not realistic, and do I have to make a choice about what things I do and do not want to do this year? If I go to these weddings, can I not take a weekend away, you know, for myself? And how do we plan for these irregular expenses? So those things are totally doable if you plan for them and if you're willing to kind of shift the money around a little bit. So once you understand what's coming in, what's going out, then you can really start to focus on what's next. What are the other financial priorities, and how do we build up your financial foundation?
So, Britt, if it's okay, we actually had a couple questions come in. I think now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time, if that's all right. So
yeah.
One of them is directly related to this slide.
Yeah.
And that is, what if you take stock of your income and your expenses and you're actually in the negative each month? Where do you start?
Yeah, and that's a tough one, right? Because there is a simple answer to this. You either need to earn more money or you need to spend less, which is great if it was as easy as that. Oh, I'll get a second job, or oh, I'll just move. These are. It sounds like a simple answer. Hey, earn more or spend less, but really, that's a very tough life choice. So what we want to do is figure out where can we make little cuts? What are the adjustments that I can make? I think the thing that is most helpful is to have a budget in place and say, what does my lifestyle cost me? Does that mean I need to earn an extra $20,000 a year? Or could it be, hey, if I earned an extra $50 a month, that would make the difference? Or if I earned an extra $100 a month, would that be enough? Can I do that? Can I take on a side gig or work from home, on writing articles for a website, or could I be a TaskRabbit? Or do I need to really take stock of my life and say, okay, I need to cut some costs. I need to cut back on my cable bill. I need to get a cheaper cell phone. Maybe I do need to move. Maybe the place that I'm living is too expensive. So they are hard choices, but it kind of is one of those things of what is it worth to you? If you want to have financial security, it's not always easy. It's always rewarding to know that you can kind of take care of yourself, but it's not always easy.
Excellent. Thank you. I know, a lot of the people that we see at the SAM Fund are really struggling to make ends meet and, don't have as much flexibility with some of the bigger issues, but I think some of what you just said about taking a look at your cell phone bill and, sort of the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Taking a look at those things and scaling back, even if it's just in small amounts one at a time, can really add up. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the other question also, I think, is actually more related to the slide you just did two slides ago, which was about not being able to afford monthly payments, let's say on a medical bill or a credit card bill. The question was, how can I work with creditors to keep my account current?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do, and I think this is true in anything, right? Not just your finances, even in your, your relationships and your daily life, is to communicate. So if you don't let the credit card company know, or the bill, the hospital or the medical bill or the collections people, if you don't let them know that you can't afford something and you just stop making your payments, they're just kind of assuming that you're never going to pay. Whereas if you call them and you say, hey, here's my situation, here's what I would like to do. I want to pay this bill. How can we work together to get it paid? They would always prefer that you call and say, I want to pay this, I just can't pay it right now. Can we work out a payment plan? Versus, I can't pay this, and so I'm just going to not do anything. And I think there's this kind of fear that leads to this paralysis of like indecision, right? So I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to wait and not do anything, and I'll wait till they contact me. But I think being proactive in your finances, making phone calls to whoever is holding that debt and saying, hey, here's my situation. And sometimes they might say, I know with student loans, they'll say, let's do an income-based repayment plan. And you can say, hey, I'm only making $500 a month right now. What is my payment? Because they want you to be paying something. You want to be paying something. You don't want to just walk away from all of your debts and responsibilities. But I think saying to a company, here's what I'm doing, here's where I need help, here's what I'm offering you. Maybe I can't pay the entire $5,000 bill, but maybe I could pay you $3,500 and I could pay it right now. Would you take the cut on that? And most of the time they'll say, yeah, we would rather have something. Or you say, hey, I can't make a $400 a month payment, but I can make a $100 a month payment for a longer period of time. Can you work with me on a payment plan? So just communicating your needs, I think, can be super helpful. And as you tackle some of the smaller things, you tackle cutting down on the cell phone bill or cutting cable and going Netflix only or something like that, it gives you the confidence to tackle some of those bigger financial decisions as well.
Excellent. So there's just one more, and I think this actually goes back one more slide, or two more slides. I'm sorry,
no worries.
I've done it in reverse order. But the question was about creating habits, and you're talking about, sort of taking stock daily and changing your habits a little bit. So for someone that doesn't feel in control of his or her finances, what would you recommend is one of the very first habits he or she should develop in order to manage their finances better?
So I think that getting organized is really the key, because it's hard to say, I'm going to be in control of my finances if you have no idea what your financial picture looks like. So just getting organized, finding a tool to help you. Some people like pen and paper. Some people have an Excel spreadsheet. I like to do it on an app on my phone. It doesn't there's not one solution for everyone, but just getting organized, I think, is the very kind of first and best thing you can do. And the other thing that you need to do, as with anything in your life, is to break it down in small, manageable steps. If I say to you, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to have 6 months of income in an emergency fund. You're like, oh my God, well, how am I supposed to do that? $5 at a time. It doesn't have to be this gigantic, life-changing, big, huge light bulb moment where your whole life changes and suddenly you're amazing at organizing your finances. It could be one thing. It could be, hey, you know what I'm going to do this week? I'm going to track my finances, all of my expenses for a week. That's it. And see how it feels. And then you're like, all right, you know what? I can do it next week too. Or, hey, I'm going to see where I'm spending the most money. I spend a ton of money eating out of the house. I'm going to try for the next week to go grocery shopping and cook my meals and save a little bit of money there. So I think it's breaking things down into really small, manageable pieces, because finances can feel absolutely overwhelming. But if you make a plan and you tackle things in steps, it becomes much more manageable.
Excellent. Thanks. So that's all we've got for now. So
okay. No worries. Okay. So we talked about, getting organized rather, know what's coming in, know what's going out. And now we're going to talk about basic financial security. This is really where a plan starts. You're on top of your spending. Maybe you have a little bit of money left over, or you're seeing some areas where you could cut back to make a little bit of money left over for your financial priorities. And so this is the plan. So what we want to do is really talk about the foundation of your whole financial life. And at LearnVest, we believe that this is 3 basic pieces: savings, paying off debts, and then contributing to retirement. So Alexa always calls this the monopoly step, because once you get these done, then you can pass go, and we can talk about some of the bigger, more exciting things as well. But this is really that kind of first crucial step that you want to start working towards. So emergency fund. When we think about emergency funds, I think people get overwhelmed because, like I said, they're big numbers. If I say to you I want 6 months of take-home pay in the bank, you're like, oh my God, that's $10,000, $20,000, however much it is, that feels overwhelming, that feels daunting. And so what we want to do is start slow. So you need emergency savings. I feel like you guys know this more than anyone else. The average American household has less than 1 month of take-home in the bank. So this is kind of, and we'll talk about this with debt as well, but emergency savings and debt really go hand in hand. So what we want to do as kind of the very first financial step you can take before you do anything else, before you start saving for your vacation, or before you start increasing your retirement contributions or accelerating debt payments, you need to build emergency savings. So start off with, heck, $5 a week. Automate it, right? Say, hey, every time I get paid, see if your company or HR department will split it automatically. So 90% of your paycheck goes right into your checking account, 10% automatically goes into your savings. You won't miss it because you won't even know it's there. The other thing that I like to tell people is to keep your emergency fund at a separate bank from where you do your day-to-day banking. So if you do your day-to-day banking at Wells Fargo, keep your emergency fund at Ally Bank online, so that when you log into your checking, you don't always see that savings account and think like, oh, my checking's getting a little low, but not to worry, I'll just transfer money out of savings. I would prefer that we build the really good habit of putting a little bit of money away every month, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. But what happens is that for a lot of people, there's this feeling of, you know what I need to do? I need to get rid of all of my debt. It weighs very heavily on me. It doesn't feel good. It makes me anxious. Let me put all the extra money I have towards my debt. And then what happens is you put all the extra money you have towards your debt, and then you've left yourself cash poor, or you have some type of emergency. Your car breaks down. You need new tires. You trip and chip your front tooth, and you don't have any cash in the bank to pay for that. So you have to put it on a credit card or take on more debt to pay for those things. So that's why I like to say kind of emergency fund savings. That's the way to break a debt cycle and kind of really start to give yourself a leg up. So those are the little tricks, automation, keep it up at a separate bank, and really know that your emergency fund is for emergencies. So for these things that are listed here, it's not for a weekend away. It's not for a really great sale on a winter coat that you've been eyeing. It's really for emergencies. So think about, what's the first step? If it is $5 a week, once you're used to that, maybe it's $10, maybe it's $20, maybe you're putting $100 a month, whatever it is, slow, steady, easy to tackle steps. So then we'll talk about debt. So there's some good debt, there's some bad debt. So good debt is things like student loans, mortgages, things that are going to kind of appreciate and gain value. The majority of Americans have a lot of bad debt. There's about, I think, $900 billion in credit card debt that's outstanding in the U.S. right now, about $7,000 per household. And that's the stuff that weighs on you, the debt that you had to borrow for a car repair, you had to borrow for a medical expense. So it's not an investment, and it's kind of a little weight on your shoulder. It's a ball and chain on your ankle. So the best way to tackle debt is to, in the beginning, just pay the minimums. Pay what you can towards them. Don't feel like you need to pay these off with superhuman speed. Rank your debt by interest rate. So let's say you have some debt that's at 10%, some that's at 5%, and some that's, interest-free. Let's say you got a really great deal. Pay off the 10% first. So pay the minimums on everything. But if you do have an extra little bit of money, $20 every month, put it towards that 10% debt, and you'll snowball that. That debt is costing you the most, so we'll pay it off more quickly. Then what happens, let's say you pay off that highest interest debt. Now put all of the money that you were putting towards the highest loan, now that it's paid off, funnel that right into the second highest loan. And that way you're kind of paying things off little by little. You're not ever trying to overpay and leave yourself cash poor. It's a system, and it's going to pay things off in the most efficient way possible, save you a little bit of interest in the long run, and really help you to break that debt cycle. So any questions, just feel free to hop in. So the next piece of the financial puzzle is retirement. And it's hard to save for retirement. It's hard to save for a goal that's really far away. It's hard to save for the future when you don't actually know what the future is going to look like, and you're supposed to be preparing for it when you're in your 20s. So you're working for 40 years, but that money is supposed to last you, 70 years of your life. And so how do we tackle something that's so huge? When you think about retiring, what you need is like 20 to 30 times your income in the bank or in an investment account to last you through your retirement. So this is another one of those things, small steps. And especially with retirement, you guys are young, and so you have time on your side to really take advantage of all of the things now that can have a huge impact down the line. So break it down into bite-sized pieces. So I want to show you guys this next slide, which I love. So we have examples of two people, same age, both contributing to retirement. The difference is that Alex started when she was 20, and Sam started when he was 40. So even though Sam was contributing more, Alex had the advantage of time. Alex was able to put away less and have it grow, because you're having interest, paid on interest, paid on interest, and it's just compounding and growing over the years. So that when they hit 65 years old, let's say, Alex has double what Sam has, double, even though Alex is putting in less money over time. So starting early is one of the greatest advantages that you can give yourself. It's really the best way to take advantage of your retirement account. So one of the best things that you can do for yourself is that if you leave here and you don't have a retirement account, set one up. An IRA or through your workplace, if you have access to a 401k or a 403b or something like that, just set one up. It doesn't have to be one of these things where you're like, oh man, I need to have $2 million saved for retirement. I better start putting $500 a month in there. Absolutely not. When I started my first retirement account, I think I was putting $20 a month into it. It was not a huge amount of money, but it has grown over time. So if you don't have one, start. If you do have one, set aside a time, a calendar, set a calendar reminder, just like we talked about a few minutes ago, and every 6 months, increase your contributions by 1% of your salary. And same goes for if you don't have one. Maybe you can afford to put away 1% of your salary into that retirement account. But if you have one, talk to HR and say, hey, can you do automatic increases for me every 6 months, increase by 1%? This way you probably won't notice. It's an amount that's not going to hit your wallet so hard. And the other thing to kind of think about is that when you're young, it feels like you have no money. It feels like sometimes everything is a drain on your finances. But the thing that can happen, and that does happen a lot, is that right now is actually when you have a little bit more freedom, because maybe you don't have children yet, maybe you don't have a mortgage, maybe you don't have these other kind of time sucks and money sucks that are really just draining you. And so maybe this is the time when you can afford to put a little bit more in, sacrifice maybe a little bit, one less dinner out a week, or making lunch an extra time a week, and you can put that money towards retirement. So it really, really grows over time. So the next step in a financial plan is to build. So we've really, we've talked about the critical stuff, right? We've talked about saving for emergencies, saving for retirement, paying down credit cards. So now we get to talk about the fun stuff. What do you want to do? Do you want to go back to school? Do you want to take a vacation? Do you want to get married or have a child? What are the things that when you're daydreaming, you're thinking about doing? Those things are possible if you plan for them. The thing that I think trips people up is that when I say, hey, I want you to have 6 months of emergency savings, I want you to pay down your debts, I want you to save for retirement, I do want you to do all those things, but it doesn't mean that you can't do the fun stuff until you've finished the stuff that's not as fun. Once you're on that right path, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I am putting money into savings every month. I am, paying down my debts. I am saving for retirement. Why don't I reward myself a little bit? It doesn't have to be, a $10,000 trip to Hawaii. It could be a day trip to somewhere that you always wanted to go. But I think once you know that you're taking care of your priorities, and once you have the understanding that, you are taking the right steps, it's okay to reward yourself. And I feel like there's a lot of guilt around money and finances and saying, well, I have debt, so I should never do anything fun until my debt is paid off. I should never do anything fun until my emergency savings is fully funded. I don't believe in that. I don't think it's true. As long as you can pay, your debts, as long as you're putting money away and you're working towards savings and towards retirement, there's nothing wrong with living in the now and, celebrating kind of the day-to-day. So the next step on here is to protect. What we want to make sure of is that you have the right kinds of insurance. You guys are covered. I don't want you to work so hard paying down debt and saving, and then, because you didn't get a renter's insurance policy and your neighbor, flooded the bathtub or something, that your savings is wiped out because of something like that. So car insurance, home insurance, these are the things that are, in the grand scheme of things, not insanely expensive, but that can really, really save you a lot of heartache and a lot of money if you come to need them. And the other thing is health insurance. I'm sure you guys are extremely familiar with this. A lot of people pre-Affordable Care Act, a lot of bankruptcies were due to medical expenses, and it wasn't because people didn't have medical insurance. It wasn't because, people didn't have, and this is true for like floods and fires and things. It's not because they don't have the insurance. It's because people don't have the right kinds of insurance, and they don't know what is covered and what is not. And so this is one of those things where it helps to really look at your policy very thoroughly, see what is covered and what's not, and how you may or may not be able to kind of steer the ship a little bit into either a different category of coverage or paying a little bit more each month to get a lot more down the road. So one of the things I really like about the LearnVest site is that we have this thing called the Document Vault. The Doc Vault is what we call it for short. And it's a really great place to kind of keep all of your ducks in a row, right? So all of your estate documents, your will, your beneficiary forms, power of attorney, those are all things that everyone should have, and they're not hard to get. You can get them at the bank, you can get them online, places like LegalZoom. I know living wills you can get for free on certain websites. These are all things we recommend to every client. And then making sure that, hey, your homeowner's policy, your disability policy, your life insurance, your health insurance documents, you can upload all of that stuff to the Doc Vault, so it's all safe and in one place. So you're not, going through a file cabinet trying to find the documents from the last 3 years. You can upload it all into one place. So I really, really like that and take advantage of it. So this last part is maximize. And this is really, figuring out kind of investing. People say, oh, I want to invest, I want to grow my money, and it is really one of the smartest and most reliable ways to grow money long term, but it's not always for everyone. Until you have that emergency savings funded, you're on track for retirement, the debts are paid down, I don't encourage anyone to really take investing too seriously. If you have a 401k, if you have a retirement account, remember that you're already an investor. it's not something that you're waiting for. If you have a retirement account, you already are an investor, and you really want to make smart decisions with that money, and make sure that your foundations are taken care of, and always keep that financial foundation in mind before we start going on to kind of the next steps of investing. If your company offers a match, absolutely take advantage of that as much as you can. It's free money, so we don't want it, just left on the table. Don't feel bad if your company offers a 401k and you just feel like, you know what, I just can't do it now. Start with 1%. It doesn't have to be getting the full match right away, but working towards that. Don't feel bad if you haven't done it. I have had things like that too, so no judgment there. But going forward, if the company matches, just do everything you can to get that match. So the last part of the LearnVest action program is the Achieve section, and this is really about accountability. I think that you probably know in your regular life, you're more likely to do something if you have a buddy. So whether it's, hey, I'll meet you at the gym at 6 in the morning, and then you're like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, my alarm's going off, I really don't want to go to the gym at 6, but I promised someone I'd meet them there. Or, hey, I said I wouldn't, go shopping this week, or I would save more money this week, or I would do this, that, and the other thing. If there's no accountability, it's kind of hard to achieve. And so the thing that I like, about some of the online platforms, and especially the LearnVest platform, is it allows you to kind of see your progress over time, which in and of itself is another form of accountability. You have to kind of take the blinders off when you log in and see what your financial picture looks like. And you're held accountable if you work with a LearnVest planner by your planner, but also by yourself. You're doing this because it's what's best for you. You're not doing this because someone is forcing you to do it. You're doing it because you know that it's really best. So whether it's a planner or whether you decide to do something like this with a friend and have a friend where you say, hey, can we hold each other accountable on our spending? Can we hold each other accountable on making some of those phone calls about cutting our costs? Can we hold each other accountable about calling the hospital and seeing what the payment plan is, if they can work it out with us, and we'll check in with each other? It's like going to the gym. You have a partner, you have a trainer, you need someone to kind of help you along the way. And one of the things that we do at LearnVest here is we have something called challenges. So I know we talked a little bit about breaking things down into bite-sized pieces. That's exactly what challenges do. Breaking everything down into small, checklist, totally doable items on a weekly, monthly basis. And there's also a lot of really great classes on the LearnVest site, things about emergency savings, non-monthly expenses, investing, student loans, estate planning. There's a bunch of different resources throughout the site that can really help you with that. So any questions, Sam, if you want to jump in just before I move on? I know I can speak quickly sometimes.
So there were a couple that came in.
Yeah.
And they're sort of all over the map in terms of where they came in.
Totally fine.
So I'm just going to go in order
no
and how they came in.
Yeah.
So for someone that doesn't have emergency savings yet, but needs money to cover, let's say, a huge medical bill, which is obviously not uncommon in our young adult survivor community.
Yeah.
What are the options for that person if they don't have, or if they've just started the emergency savings and don't have a lot saved up, or if they haven't even had a chance to start saving? I mean, we hear from a lot of people who borrow against their 401k, or who open up new lines of credit and things like that. It seems like from what you said earlier, one of the first steps would be to pick up the phone and see what kind of sort of arrangement can be made, or what the options are through their provider. But if someone actually needs cash right now and doesn't have a lot saved up, what are the options that you see for that person?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your situation. I would say probably the option that you want to go with in order of what I would like to see the least of. If you can help it, don't borrow from your 401k, because what you're doing is borrowing from your future self. However, the cash is there. If that is your only option, it's there. You can absolutely do that, understanding that there are penalties and tax consequences and all of those things. So it really helps to kind of think that through and say, is this going to hurt me more than it's helping me? The other thing is, if you if you own a home equity line of credit is usually a very low interest way to do that. I know that there are medical credit cards, and they have 0% interest rates a lot of the times. I think they're usually coming directly from hospitals, and you can say, hey, sometimes maybe it's 0% interest for 12 months or something like that. The other thing you can do is talk to your local bank or talk to a credit union. Credit unions are sometimes a bit more flexible, and see, hey, are there any options? Do you have any low interest loans? Because the truth is, cash, it doesn't grow on trees, right? It has to come from somewhere, and I don't think you're going to, find a big pile of it in your backyard. So borrowing when you have to is okay. It is what it is. And if you do have, let's say you do have maybe a little bit of money set aside, to go to the whoever's holding that debt and say, hey, can you work with me? This is what I have. What can we make happen? But I would say kind of first line of defense is to say if you have anything you can borrow against, whether your home or something like that, and then a credit union, a bank, low interest loans. There's even some companies online that you could check out. I can't recommend any specifically. LearnVest doesn't have any vetted providers that we work with, but there are some online companies that do peer lending, or I know they do it for like school loans and things like that as well. So to check out some of those sites and say, hey, is the interest rate not that bad? Do I think I could have it paid back? I think the thing to be very careful of when you're borrowing money is to really, really get the terms laid out and say, hey, if I borrow this money, what am I going to have to pay every single month? What is this money going to cost me, and make sure that that monthly payment, whether it's $50 or $500, make sure that that really fits into your budget so you don't end up in a spot where now you can't pay that bill and you need to kind of borrow against more money to, pay the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and it kind of spirals a little bit.
Great. Just as a quick side note, I think what's really helpful about what you're saying is that it's so important to be informed about the decisions that you're making and to have all of the information in front of you to make an informed decision, because what we see a lot in our young adult community is that people panic and they just, it's like throwing darts at a wall to kind of get access to the quickest money that they can, and then that's when the spiral starts and it's so hard to recover. But making an informed decision, and understanding really what the options and what the consequences are, and doing so with the guidance of either a financial planner or, an ally of some kind, seems to be a really key piece. So there were a couple of other questions, but I know we're getting a little bit close on time, so I want to give you a chance, obviously to finish up, and then anything that we didn't get to, we can just follow up by email.
Yeah, so I'll go through pretty quickly. So the way the LearnVest program works is that it's affordable, right? Traditional financial planning, either if you have less than $1 million, people aren't going to work with you because they're not kind of making the cash off of that, which feels so kind of awful to say, or it's a couple $1,000s up front to get the plan. So that's something that I really think is amazing about LearnVest, is that it is affordable. What you do is and here's such an awkward thing, this is my picture on the screen and then I'm talking to you, but that's okay. You fill out your profile online. You really fill out a very comprehensive list of where you are today and all of the different things that are going into your financial picture. You get matched with a planner, you have a first phone call, and then you get your program. And it lays out kind of a step-by-step, account-by-account, dollar-by-dollar way to achieve what you're working towards. And that plan has this option. So I think what's really important when you work with anybody or when you make any decisions is not to kind of say, hey, here's the plan, do it. It's important to say, hey, here's the plan. Is this plan based in reality? Is this plan achievable? Is this something that I can stick to? And that's something that's really important in the LearnVest philosophy. And then here you'll see kind of the overview of where you are today with retirement, where you want to get to, how we're going to get there. So I don't want to spend a ton of time going through, page by page, but it's pretty comprehensive. So today, for you guys, for having me here, I'm excited to chat with you. I want to offer you guys $100 off with this code at the top. The other thing that we can also do, I know a lot of people say, okay, even $199, that's a not a small amount of money. The other thing that we can do is get you set up if you did want to purchase to do it on an installment plan, either over 2 or 3 months to make it a little bit more manageable. And I'm happy to talk with you guys about that as well. And I'll send this out in an email. So if anyone is interested or has more questions about it, I'm happy to talk through those. So wanted to offer this to you guys as kind of a thank you for having us here. And that's kind of the end of my spiel. So I'm happy to answer a few more questions. We've got a little bit more time. And if you have any questions about the program, shout them out now or feel free to save them and email me later as well.
Excellent. Wow, that was a lot of information and really, really helpful.
It is a lot.
There was one other question that came in that I just wanted to ask since we do have an extra couple minutes.
Yeah.
And that was about interest rates.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to find the exact question, and I apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
But somebody was curious, given what the market looks like now, is it worth it to try and negotiate interest rates with creditors?
Yeah, absolutely. It never hurts to ask. It's always, the worst they can say is no, right? So especially with credit cards, if you have kind of an okay history with them, I will tell you that if it's one of these things where it's like, hey, you haven't paid in 6 months and you call and ask for a favor, they're not going to give it to you. However, credit bureaus and credit cards are a little bit different from the rest of the world. But if you say, hey, I cannot afford this payment, can you come down on the interest rate? Wouldn't you prefer that I pay than that I don't? And so as long as you are making a good faith effort to really pay the bills, to stay on top of it, and to work with you, people and companies are receptive to that. They would always rather that you pay less as long as you're paying. So absolutely, try to negotiate. And the other thing that you can bring to the table is to say, hey, I've done my research. Here are some interest rates at other places, and you have that in your back pocket. So you know, hey, if this person isn't going to negotiate with me or they're not able for some reason to lower the interest rate, what are my backup options so that you don't kind of go into a tailspin and have a panic when you get a no, we can't help you right now. To always have a contingency plan or to have done your research at least so you know what you're really looking for.
Okay, last question.
Sure.
Actually, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Second to last question. Do I need to have anything, in terms of emergency savings or habits or anything in the bank to be able to start with LearnVest?
No. Nope. I have clients that had less than nothing in the bank. They just had some credit card debt when they came. To start with LearnVest, you need an income. I would say that you have to have money coming in. We don't want to take we are charging for the service, so I don't want to add another bill to someone's plate that doesn't actually have any way to pay any of their bills. So as long as you have income coming in, sometimes what happens is if you have an overwhelming amount of debt, right, and you're saying, you know what, I can't even make my minimum payments, I think the best thing to do is to contact the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. I believe their website is nfcc.org, and they can really work with you. They're a nonprofit. They can work with you to help you kind of get those things under control, because it is hard to work on building up savings when you actually, can't make the minimum payments on your debts. So if it's one of these things where you're drowning in that, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling is wonderful and can really help you work out payment plans and be strategic with those things. But if it's kind of one of these things of like, hey, I have an extra $50 at the end of the month, or I'm breaking even, or I'm just barely, on the cusp of like coming into the black, then that is where LearnVest can step in.
Excellent. Well, it is just about 5 o'clock on the nose. So
Perfect.
I want to thank you so much for such a great presentation, Britt. I think so much of what you said really held true to your promise in the beginning to keep it manageable and to take small steps and to really set people up to make good decisions so that the financial future starts to look a little bit better. So
yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
We appreciate you being here. We're so just thrilled to have you and to learn from you. And I just want to thank you for doing this great presentation.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
So we're going to go ahead and switch it back to our screen. And the last note, just for everyone who's listening live, this session has been recorded, so we're going to put it up on our website and on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/samfuntv. Please share it. Share it with anyone you know who might benefit from the information that Britt has shared with us. And for anyone that's listening either live or to a recording later, please take a couple minutes to fill out our webinar survey. Like I said in the beginning, we really take your feedback very seriously, and this webinar series exists because we want to be able to help you guys, and we want to be able to provide you with the tools and the information and the resources to feel more empowered and to overcome whatever challenges are in front of you because of your cancer. So let us know how we're doing. Let us know how this presentation was. Let us know what other topics you might have in mind for future presentations, and really any other feedback that you have, shoot it on over to us, either in the webinar survey or at webinars@thesamfund.org. All of the information is on your screen now. So stay in touch with us, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and we'll keep you posted on upcoming webinars. Thanks so much, everybody.